Hello, and welcome back to Always Revolving 33. My name is Brian, and welcome to episode 3. The first thing we're going to talk about today is, can Alice Cooper be saved? Not the individual, not the man himself. That's a job for God. I'm talking about my beat up, terrible, awful copy of Love It to Death that I got for free at a record show maybe a month and a half back. It was in terrible shape, so I thought this is a perfect time to be able to try out the Gorilla Glue method, which I did, and I kind of documented the whole thing. So we're going to run through the process, the application, the glue removal, and the play test at the end, and let you see what the results are. And then next after that is going to be 10 from 30. Over the last few weeks, when I hadn't been allowing myself to look at the new records I bought, I actually counted them up last week, and there were 30 of them, and that's just far, far, far too many. So I broke it down into groups of 10. So the first 10 we will be talking about today, going into a little more detail about each of those. And and then group 2 and 3 will come in later videos. Maybe not 1, 2, 3 in a row, but at some point. And then the next thing is a little story about how I got ghosted on a record I've been searching for a very long time that I was really excited about getting. And I had been talking to someone on Marketplace, and then gone. Didn't hear anything. So I'm still waiting, but I'm going to give you the rest of that story in today's episode. And the final thing will be the random pull from the shelves, which today happened to be Lady Coryell by Larry Coryell. Larry kind of gets, I guess you can't really pigeonhole him, but when people do put him in a category, they say, jazz or avant-garde jazz. But he is jazz, he is blues, he is a little bit folky, he's classical, he's sometimes even full-on psychedelic freak out kind of stuff. He's lots of distortion, lots of effects, so not typical jazz kind of stuff, but really interesting record. So Lady Coryell from 1969. We're going to be looking at that today. All coming up on episode 3. Okay, first up, folks, we are going to look at all the compiled little clips I did of the Saving Alice Cooper project, from the initial glue application to the dried out process to the removal, the cleaning, and the final play test with questionable results, but results nonetheless. So here they go. Hey everybody, this is Brian from Always Revolving 33. And this is a little video of the process of doing wood glue to try and clean up and improve the sound of a record. I did a full-length video like this, and it just seemed a little long and cumbersome. So I thought a quick motion video would be a little bit better and give you an idea of how it's done. And I do give you a look at side 1 and how that was done. And I'll do a reveal on this in the next few days. But this is how we do it. Okay, folks, here it is. The moment you maybe haven't been waiting for. The reveal. I'm going to try and peel the glue off this old Alice Cooper record. So if you remember before, we used some Gorilla Glue, business card, and now the final ingredient is box tape. This is another little element that I stole from that guy who was doing his auctions on Whatnot, and when he was removing his glue from his records, he just did it like this with a strip of box tape to the edge. I'd seen other people do it before, trying to use a toothpick or even a pin. I saw somebody use it. It seems like a really bad idea, but this seemed like the safest, as long as you don't get too much adhesive, from the tape stuck on your labels, which I've got a little bit on there, but again. So this is the lifting process, and I just want to see how it goes. And it's not lifting anything. So there's that. Maybe I've left it too long. Maybe I've got to get, oh, see, it is still starting to lift around that edge. So I might need to use that toothpick to get it started. I will be right back. I got toothpicks right here in the kitchen. Luckily. All right, so I'm gonna have to break through. So it looks like I put too heavy of a layer of glue on there to start with. So I gotta kind of break that through. Now, it's kind of coming now. It's not very graceful. Oh, there we go. I think it was just a bad edge there. So it is lifting. Wow, it's really on there. Oh, and I did just tear the label. How about that? It's, again, it was a freebie. So I am gonna have to do some edge cleaning on this, obviously. Maybe the other side will come off cleaner. But, oh, that's crazy. And you can see the individual grooves there. Yeah, if that had come off in one piece, yes, I probably would have tried to play it on something. So, you can see on this side, there's still some glue stuck here in the run-out groove. I'm gonna just probably do a little scraping around the edge, and then I'll run it through the spin cleaner before I actually try and test play it. All right, let's see if side 2 is any better or any worse. All right, let's see if we get, oh, see now this side lifts right up. So that side is much better. Now it's still leaving some in the run-out groove, but I mean, I can literally just grab that and pull it. So this one is a little bit more of a success. But again, I will do some definite spot cleaning, area cleaning. Hey, it's the first time. I wasn't expecting a fantastic result. There again, you can see each of the grooves. That is, start pressing my own bootleg copies now off of this thing. But that's how it's turned out to this point. You can see there's a little bit of glue left around the edges, but that will easily come off. Run it through the spin cleaner, and I'll give it a test. Okay, so here we are after I spent a little bit more time to try and get the rest of that glue off. It seems to be in the lead-in and the run-out grooves. Oh, there's still a little bit of glue right there. That's the toughest place for the glue to come off. But to get it off, all you need is a little bit, you know, once I put it through the spin cleaner and it was a little bit wet there with that distilled water, I just kind of scrubbed it a bit with my thumb and it did come off. But then I had to put it through the spin cleaner again to get those last loose bits. I can't say that it looks any better than it did before. Maybe the scratches are a little brighter than they used to be, but the play test, I guess, will be the real reveal. So for now, that's how it looks post glue removal. Now we'll have to do the play test, which will be coming up soon. Okay, so we are now going to do the play test after I've used the glue method for cleaning. I've listened to it a little bit. It is moderately better. It's not as muffled as it was, but the pops and clicks are definitely still there. I'm just going to let you have a little listen to this run-in groove at the beginning. I don't know if you'll be able to hear any difference, but we're going to give it a try anyway. That's all I can give you without getting dinged for copyright infringement, but it is moderately better, but it still needs a lot of work. So I don't think it's ever going to be great, but I did play through a few tracks on each side. They played through without any skips. Not that there were skips before, but they were close to skips in a couple of places, and this does sound better. So maybe if you've got one that's, in better condition than this to start with, if you did the glue method, it might get a little bit better even yet. So there's the results of the Gorilla Glue test. Like I said, there was a pretty beat up copy, so I wasn't hoping for much. There was a moderate, well, a minimal, I think is more truthful, a minimal difference in the sound quality, but it was interesting. It was kind of something I'd seen others doing and having varying results with, so I thought I'd try it myself. Maybe putting it through a Humming Guru, a degritter of some sort would have some more, more positive results, but I ain't got the cash for one of those right now, so it's just gonna have to stay the way it is. Now, if anybody wants that record and they want to try some other experimenting with that same copy and they want to put it on their own channel, let me know in the comments and I will send it off to you just to, we're going to do the maybe the Alice Cooper world tour of the copy of Love It to Death that maybe should have been left at the record show. But yeah, let me know in the comments. Hey, welcome back. Now it's time to do our 10 from the group of 30. Those 10 albums from that big batch of 30 that I've been holding back on going through to try and get myself motivated to make a YouTube channel. Well, the channel's happening, so now I'm going through those records, and now we're starting with the first 10. And the first one is, yes, this is a New Edition record, Heartbreak. This was released in '88. This is after Bobby Brown is gone and Johnny Gill is now part of the lineup. So you still have the three core guys who would end up being Bell Biv DeVoe later on. So you've got Bell Biv DeVoe, Ralph Tresvant, and Johnny Gill now instead of Bobby Brown. I haven't listened to it yet, but I kind of grew up in that era of, I still know, Cool It Now and Mr. Telephone Man and those bigger hits that it was kind of a doo-woppy kind of, it was a cool sound. I kind of liked it. And, any of the kind of soul stuff, it was the New Jack Swing kind of era. The Tony would come in a little bit later on. And that was really good stuff. But yeah, this was just interesting. I'd never seen this record before. It was, once Bobby Brown had gone, I didn't really hear much about them. So I thought I would give this a try. And I think it was $2 I paid for it. So, yeah. So that is Heartbreak, New Edition. I do have a box on the floor now to put my records in. I'm not just laying them on the floor. So hopefully nobody thinks, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing that. I'm not. I'm really not. Next up, Mountain, Avalanche. This is the last not the last Avalanche, the last Mountain record with the original lineup with Corky Lang and Felix Pappalardi and Leslie West. I bought this because a few weeks earlier I had bought this Mountain record. This was the only, basically I knew a few songs off of this record. I knew Nantucket Sleigh Ride, I knew Mississippi Queen. I thought, okay, it was a cheap enough copy. I gave it a whirl, and every song on this record was good. So when I saw this a short time later, I thought, okay, let's keep building the Mountain collection. Now, again, I haven't listened to this yet because I haven't had time to clean it. So the cleaning and the listening will be coming up soon for this one. But this was put out in '74, and that was, like I said, the last one with that original lineup. And that was about $12 I paid for that one. So $12 Canadian, so $8 American roughly. So it was a good deal. It's worth the risk. And when I knew that the first record I had listened to I really liked, I'm assuming that the next few will be in the same vein. So I'll find out soon enough. Next, another one of the Deutsche Grammophon records. Again, if they're clean, they sound fantastic. But if they have any kind of scuffing or anything, leave them be because you hear everything. So when they're clean, they're fantastic. When they're not super clean, perfect, they have to be VG++ or excellent to be worth buying. But when they are super clean, they sound fantastic. Blue Danube's an amazing piece. Trich Trach Polka. I never thought I would be a fan of a polka track, but I guess it's not really a track, it's a piece. But yeah, Trich Trach Polka is really, really good. And this is just another, I've probably got 15 or 20 of these now because you see them for $1 everywhere. And some of them look like they've never been played. And those are the ones I'll buy. The ones that are beat up, leave them alone. Next, there's a pair of records here that I bought for no other reason than the title. Not the cover art, not the band. I was familiar with the band to a small degree, but this was just purely because of the title. Because who's not going to buy a record called Psychedelic Lollipop? How much more psychedelic LSD 60s can you get than an album called Psychedelic Lollipop? This was released in '66, Blues Magoo's first record. I believe it's their first. I don't think they had anything before this. This has got their one moderate radio hit, We Ain't Got Nothing Yet, on it. It's a decently clean copy. I haven't listened to it yet, but I am looking forward to it because, there's got to be some amazing elements to this with a name like Psychedelic Lollipop. And on that same day, in that same store, I found yet another Blues Magoo's record. This one, the Electric Comic Book. So you go from a Psychedelic Lollipop to an Electric Comic Book. Do you see a kind of a little pattern forming here? So this was the album that came right after. This one was released in '67, the first one in '66. This one I paid like $2 for. It's another super psychedelic of the time kind of record. I don't recognize any of the songs on this one, but it's worth a try. I'm sure it's a good one. At least for the psychedelic lovers, you're going to be into that one. And yeah, that first one, the Psychedelic Lollipop is actually a monocopy, which is kind of cool too. So not always monocopies that you find around. And they were all, relatively cheap. The first one was like $12. The second one was a $2 purchase. Next up, the Spinners. What can I say about the Spinners? Could It Be I'm Falling in Love is a killer mid-early 70s soul classic staple, whatever you want to call it. So this kind of stuff, Spinners, stuff like the Isley Brothers, I could listen to that all the time. But again, this was like $1.50, and it's a decent, clean copy. It's on Atlantic. Yeah, it's got a couple of hairlines, but nothing terrible, nothing massive, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing that whole record. So as soon as I get around to cleaning all these, I'll be spinning them and maybe talking about them a little bit more later on. But this Spinners album came out in '73. Now we get into some ones I'm not so familiar with. These are like dollar bin records that I just saw covers and I thought, yeah, okay, that's worth $1. That's worth the risk. This one, New Birth, Platinum City. This just looked, by the look of the cover, I was thinking, okay, it's got to be something kind of funky, kind of disco-y, 70s. And it is. It's, what was the description? 79 funk soul disco. And it was $2. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a whirl. And it's on the Areola label, which was a fairly big disco label. Like, knock on wood, I know that record was on Areola as well. So if this turns out to be a real winner, I'll let you know. Or if it turns out to be a real loser, I'll let you know as well. This one, I don't know. Stranger. I'm not sure why I bought it. I think probably because it was $1. It's Self-titled album, 1982, on something called Grand River Records. Which, I mean, the Grand River. There is a Grand River that runs right near where I live and through a lot of the towns near here. It is a Canadian production. What was the description? Hard rock. Okay, but I don't know. These guys don't look too hard rocking by the picture on the back. So I really know nothing about this other than it's three guys Canadian power trio from 1982. So maybe it's a hidden gem, maybe it's a dud, but once I clean it up and listen to it, I will do a little recap on it. But yeah, for $1, yeah, you take the risk. Next, Slade. Later Slade. Early Slade, really big fan of. Loved, Goodbye to Jane and Mama We're All Crazy Now and all that kind of stuff. And Merry Christmas, everyone. That's the perfect Christmas song for me. But this one, this cover, it literally looks like it has been chewed apart by an animal. I don't know what happened to it. And somebody has traced the letters in Slade with a pen. So that's not exactly appealing. But the record itself is perfect. Well, maybe not perfect, but very close to perfect. Really clean. And this was Slade's comeback. So I was in middle school when this album came out, which was in '84. So yeah, I would have been in like 6th grade, 7th grade. And I remember thinking, oh, there's this awesome new band called Slade. And then I said that to my brother. He's like, they're not new. They're old. They've been around since early '70s. So I didn't know them because they had disappeared by then. So this was the first Slade record and the first Slade songs that I knew was their comeback, their rebirth. So that one, I don't think I paid very much for that either. Yeah, $2. So it was $2. And the little bit of trivia, only in North America, I believe it was, that it had the name Keep Your Hands Off My Power Supply. The rest of Europe and maybe the rest of the world, it was called The Amazing Kamikaze Syndrome. Why the difference? I guess the kamikaze thing maybe hit certain people the wrong way. And it was, the marketing team was thinking, maybe we should give that a different spin for another market. Anyway, that was the difference. Now, The Temptations, Psychedelic Shack. Now, this one, if you're looking at it and thinking, I know Temptations, Psychedelic Shack, and that doesn't look like it. Yes, you're right, because this is basically a cheapo repress. This is a Pickwick edition, but I've just had a really tough time finding a clean, decent, affordable copy of Psychedelic Shack. Love the Temptations. They were kind of like the experimenters of that whole Motown scene. And this is one record that I've been having trouble finding. So I'm going to give it a whirl. If the Pickwick version sounds terrible, then yes, I'll keep looking. I'll probably keep looking for a Tamla Motown copy anyway. But this one I just saw for $10 and it was a 40% off sale. So I paid $6 Canadian for this. So it wasn't a big investment. So if it turns out to be a bad copy, I can still go out and find another one. But speaking of the Temptations, I've been buying quite a bit of Temptations lately. This one is one I would recommend to anyone to at least listen to. Buy it if you see it cheap enough. This one, again, was out of the $2 bin. This has got $4, but it was half price of $2. But Temptations' Greatest Hits, Volume 2. I Wish It Would Rain's on here. Cloud 9 is a great song. Ball of Confusion, everybody knows that. Can't Get Next to You. Psychedelic Shack is on here. Runaway Child, Running Wild. Fantastic song. So there's a lot of really good songs on here. And because of that, I've bought a couple of other Temptations studio albums when I've come across them and recognized songs. And I'm going to talk more about this one when I do a future episode called There's Nothing Wrong with the Greatest Hits album, because there is nothing wrong with this greatest hits album, or that Steve Miller Band greatest hits album that's up there, or Nazareth's greatest hits, or other ones. I could go on, and I will in another episode, but this is just kind of leading into that. But this one, Temptation, Sky's the Limit. Fantastic record. Smiling Faces Sometimes, I thought, was another typical shorter Motown kind of a song. The actual original track length on this album is 12 minutes and 35 seconds. So there's a lot you don't get if you buy a Motown compilation or maybe a greatest hits record that has that on it. A 12.5 minute version is, much, much more involved than the short. There's nothing wrong with the short version that you get on a greatest hits record, but it's scratching the surface. And it seemed like on every Temptations record that I bought, I would say, oh, wow, there's, a few. On this album, the second track on side 2 is almost 10 minutes long. They were doing a lot longer pieces than the average Motown act. I don't know how they got away with that. Again, Temptations, All Directions, has Papa Was a Rolling Stone on here. This one is an actual proper Tamla Motown. But, yeah, Papa Was a Rolling Stone. 11 minutes, 45 seconds. So usually what you hear on the radio or in a compilation is going to be a shortened 3, maybe 4 minute version. Here you get the full 12 minutes. They still have the 2.5, 3 minute songs on here, but there's always, it seemed like they would end each side with a longer track. Which really kind of appealed to me and kind of turned me into a bigger Temptations fan than I had been previously. So that's the first 10 of that group of 30. So in a later video, we'll get into group 2 and group 3 of those. But for now, that's probably enough. So who wants to hear a sad story? Any volunteers? Hands? Anyone? Okay, well, you're going to hear it anyway. Last week on Sunday, I was flipping through Marketplace and I came across an ad for a record I've been wanting for a very long time. That would be John Martin's Solid Air. It was a Canadian first pressing. Guy was asking $30 for it. Okay, I'm sending the messages and, waiting. And he messages back and says, yep, I've got it. This was on Sunday evening last week, so it was too late to go. It was in a town about 30 minutes from where I live. And I messaged him and I said, okay, if you still have it, I'm definitely interested. I'll take it. And he said, yep, still got it. No problem. And I said, I can come pick it up one evening this week after I'm done work. And he said, okay, Tuesday or Wednesday is best for me. I'll be home then. So Tuesday comes around, I finish work, I message him, and I said, how was tonight? Does tonight work for you? He said, tonight I'll be getting home late, so maybe not tonight. Tomorrow would be better. Okay, I'm cool with that, no problem, because I don't want to spook anybody. So Wednesday rolls around, I send a message and say, okay, what time is good for me to come get this record? And nothing. Nothing. Haven't heard a thing since. I've sent a couple of messages. No communication at all from his end since then. So, yeah, that was a bit of a bummer this week. And then I had another bit of a bummer today. Again, on Marketplace, flipping through, and I see an ad that had a copy of Kiss Alive, which I have absolutely no interest in. I have a couple of copies. I have a half of a German copy, and I'm not a big Kiss fan to start with. But the other record that this person had was a copy of LA Guns, Cocked and Loaded, and it was $20 Canadian, which is, $15 US, and I've never seen one. I've never seen one out in the wild. I've never seen one with all the crate digging. I've never seen one at a show. And this was just somebody here in my own hometown looked at the ad and it said, oh, this was just listed 7 hours ago. Maybe not. So I messaged her and she said, oh, you just missed it. Somebody just came and picked that one up. But the Kiss record is still available. And I was just kind of like, no, I've got enough of those. So 2 times in less than 7 days, I've been, that close, or I've been kind of burned on deals on Marketplace. But I will still keep trying, because I have had some really good luck on Marketplace. It's just a matter of getting there first. That's what it's all about, is being the first one to get there. I did get a small collection one time that was only about 20 records that I think I paid $120 for. There were a couple of Beatles records in there, but the main thing I wanted was there was a copy of the first Funkadelic record in there. So as soon as I saw that, I would pay, a pretty good price just for that record. I don't think she realized that's where the money was in that collection she had. She thought the Beatles records were the money, but it was actually the Funkadelic record. So I messaged her right away, and she said, okay, if you can come get it today, it's yours. But if not, there's been like 22 other people message me in the last half hour. So everyone who was part of the vinyl community that lived in anywhere near that area saw that Funkadelic record and went, oh, I'm going to try and get that. So sometimes you're the first one and you luck out. Other times you're second or fifth or eighth. And sometimes people just ghost you. And sometimes people are just, a little bit dishonest, and it's disappointing sometimes. But you get over it, because there's always another record show. There's always another record store. There's always another Marketplace ad that'll keep you, interested in going back and scrolling through a little bit. So for this week's random shelf pull, I ended up grabbing this one. Larry Coryell, Lady Coryell. This was a 69 release, I believe, on the Vanguard Apostolic label. Like I said, it's you can't pigeonhole Larry Coryell, because he's all over the place. That's kind of unfair to say all over the place, but he plays in a lot of different styles. On this record, he goes from a little poppy ballad to something with a country tinge to something with classical edge to something very jazzy with odd dissonant chords in it. And then on the same, the second last song, Lady Coryell, is a 6.5 minute song on the second last song on side one. And it starts out with this beautiful, almost orchestral sound, and it winds up being that super psychedelic, just gritty, grindy feedback. It's crazy. I first discovered Larry Coryell because of this record, Larry Coryell Live at the Village Gate, and I thought, oh, he must be a jazz guy. I'm thinking, I didn't even know what instrument he played when I first saw it, and I'm just reading here. Okay, January 21st, 71. Larry Coryell guitar. Okay, great. Jazz guitarist. I'm thinking, it's going to be those smooth, jazzy chords. This sounds like a Jimi Hendrix record. That's what the closest thing I could compare it to. If I compared him to anybody, his style, it would be Jimi Hendrix, but then would go directly back into something jazzy or more classical. Yeah. So I just started buying pretty much any Larry Coryell that I could find anytime I see it anywhere. This one I found, a little bit later on, and this was actually 2 years earlier than the Live at the Village Gate record. And I don't know how many Larry Coryell fans are. I know there's a few people in the VC that have talked about Larry Coryell records and how maybe undiscovered or unappreciated he is. Soren from Soren Vinyl was just a couple weeks ago talking about Larry Coryell, and then I ended up pulling out this record today. And every time you just kind of, even if you're doing something in your house and you kind of stop and think, wow, that's really different. And how did it go from what it was in track 1 to what it is in track 5? How was that the same guy? And how does he does? And because he does all those different styles really well. So maybe don't run out and buy everything Larry Coryell right now. but give some of it a listen. I would definitely recommend that Larry Coryell at the Village Gate. That was kind of my gateway, and then start reaching out because he's played in duos, he's played in trios. On Lady Coryell, he sings, he plays guitar, he plays bass. He has a couple of times that a studio bassist will come in, and somebody else was doing the drumming, but he does the lion's share of the playing on that record, and it's really interesting stuff. I would hate to be the person who said, okay, we've signed this new guy, Larry Coryell, to our label. Now let's get the marketing department on it. How do you market a guy like that? How do you market a guy who plays a little bit of everything? Yeah, I guess you just call him an avant-garde jazz musician or a modern jazz musician. But yeah, I've discovered him completely by accident, and it was a very, very happy surprise. So yeah, I would advise you to just even try out one or two tracks, see what you think, stream it, and then if you stumble upon it and you think, oh, I remember that guy, he was pretty interesting, give it a go, because you're not gonna pay a lot for his records. I don't think I've ever paid more than $10 or $15 for a Larry Coryell record. Most of those, I think I paid more like in the $5 range. So they're definitely affordable and definitely worth it. So that's it for episode 3. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope my first foray into actual editing wasn't too painful to witness. Um, Check me out on the socials on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Take a look at my Discogs store at Always Revolving 33. Thanks for watching once again, and I will see you around. Bye bye.